Have you ever sat quietly and asked yourself, when did things start to shift between me and my kids? You dedicated years to raising them, changing diapers, staying up through sleepless nights, guiding them through highs and lows. You put weekends, vacations, and sometimes even your own dreams on hold to help build theirs. And now, when you talk, they cut you off. When you share advice, they roll their eyes. When you need help, they're suddenly unavailable. And maybe worst of all, it feels like you've become invisible. If that sounds familiar, please understand this. You're not alone. Many parents hit a moment when the dynamic with their adult children shifts. You were once their hero, their problem solver, their safe place. Now it feels like you're being dismissed or treated like a burden. And that hurts more than most people realize. It's tempting to lash out, to remind them of everything you've done, to argue, to pull away. But here's the hard truth. Demanding respect usually doesn't restore it. What does work? Something much more powerful, rooted in quiet strength, clear boundaries, and self-respect. That's what today's message is about. Because you can shift how your children see and treat you, not by guilt or confrontation, but by reclaiming your own sense of value and dignity. Let's begin with a hard look at something common: people-pleasing. Have you ever said yes when you truly wanted to say no, just to keep the peace? Maybe you rearranged your schedule to babysit the grandkids even when you weren't feeling well, or let them speak to you in a way that made your stomach twist, just so you wouldn't seem difficult. Many parents do this without even realizing. But here's what you need to know. The more you chase their approval, the less they respect you. Not because they're unkind, but because human nature tends to respect what stands firm, not what always yields. Take Carol, for instance. She raised 4 kids with love and discipline, but as she aged, she started shrinking back. She let them make decisions about her finances, her house, even her health. "I just want to keep the peace," she said. But the more she stepped aside, the less they seemed to listen. Respect isn't earned through self-sacrifice. It's cultivated through self-respect. When you constantly put your own needs last, you unintentionally teach others that your time and voice don't matter. And they act accordingly. So if this sounds like you, hear this loud and clear. It's okay to stop. It's okay to say no. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to take up space. You don't need permission to do any of that. Respect starts with how you treat yourself. When you begin honoring your own needs and boundaries, the people around you will follow suit. It's not about being rude. It's about showing your children that your time, your energy, and your presence are valuable. Now, let's address another reaction that rarely brings results: arguing. When someone speaks to us disrespectfully, our instinct might be to snap back. You may want to yell, "After everything I've done, how can you treat me like this?" But usually that kind of reaction only escalates things. There's a better approach. Stop arguing. Start leading. When you react with calm, grounded confidence, it shows emotional strength. It communicates, "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to live with dignity." Let me share George's story. He spent 30 years as a respected high school principal. But at home, his adult children brushed him off, cut him off, and challenged him on everything. At first, he met fire with fire. He argued, he shouted, he tried to prove he deserved respect, but nothing changed. Then, George shifted. He stopped engaging in the drama. He still shared his thoughts, but in a composed, unshakable way. No more debates, no more raised voices. He simply stood in his truth. And guess what? His kids started listening. Not because he fought harder, but because he carried himself with authority. You don't win respect through battles. You earn it through consistency. Let your calm be your strength. Let your presence carry weight. You don't need to convince your children of your value. Live it. And here's one more truth that can change everything. You don't need your children to complete you emotionally. That doesn't mean you stop loving them, but it means your joy doesn't hinge on their attention, affection, or validation. People, even our children, tend to respect those who are emotionally self-sufficient. When your happiness comes from within, you become more magnetic. They begin to seek you out, not just out of obligation, but because they enjoy your energy. Take Anna, for example. After years of feeling forgotten by her adult children, she decided to stop waiting. She picked up painting again. She joined a gardening club. She started hosting weekly potlucks with neighbors. And over time, something shifted. Her kids started calling more, visiting more. They weren't just checking in. They were genuinely curious about her life. Why? Because she had a life. She wasn't just waiting by the phone. She was living fully. And that energy drew them back in. So if you feel that hollow ache when they don't call or visit, remember, your worth isn't measured by their attention. It's defined by how you nurture yourself. The more you invest in your joy, the more they'll be drawn to your light. Now, let's talk boundaries. Boundaries aren't about being cold or shutting people out. They're about teaching others how to treat you. And truthfully, a lot of adult children test boundaries not out of cruelty, but because those limits were never clearly set. If your kids constantly interrupt, make decisions without you, or speak in dismissive tones, it's likely because those patterns weren't checked, not due to weakness, but maybe due to love or a fear of creating distance. But love without limits can turn into resentment, and silence can sound like approval. Let's look at James. He ran a successful small business for 40 years. Confident, charismatic, but with his adult kids, he often felt small. They dismissed his ideas, cut him off, treated him like he was out of touch. One night, after a tense family dinner, he spoke up. He didn't raise his voice or shame anyone. He simply said, "I expect to be spoken to with basic courtesy. If that can't happen, I'll step away from these conversations." That was it. Calm, clear, non-negotiable. It took time, but it changed everything. His kids adjusted, not out of fear, but out of respect. Because James had made it clear, this is what I expect. This is what I deserve. Boundaries aren't about control. They're about clarity, and clarity brings respect. When you're clear about what's okay and what's not, others respond, even your kids. And finally, let's touch on one more trap: overgiving. You give time, advice, energy, and sometimes even money, because that's what parents do. And maybe you don't expect anything in return, but when giving becomes a habit without gratitude, it starts to wear you down. Respect isn't just about what you do for others. It's about what you require in return. Not gifts, not praise, just basic appreciation. You've given enough. Now it's time to give to yourself. You're not here to chase approval. You're here to live with purpose and pride. Start now. Start with you. Even when you expect nothing in return, it still stings when your kindness goes unnoticed, when they forget to say thank you, when they assume you'll always be there, when they take and take, but rarely pause to ask how you are. It's natural to want to give. That nurturing instinct doesn't fade with time. But here's something vital. When you give without boundaries or appreciation, you don't teach your children to love you more. You teach them to expect more. And eventually, your generosity fades into the background, no longer seen, no longer valued. Take Michael, a devoted father of 3. He was always the one who showed up, with his wallet, his tools, his time. Even in his 70s, he'd cancel plans or push through illness to babysit or run errands for his kids. But after a minor surgery, none of them came to help him recover. They had things to do, he said quietly. That moment shifted something deep inside. Michael didn't yell. He didn't argue. He simply made a new decision. No more automatic yes. From then on, he offered help only when it truly mattered, and only when it was met with respect. He didn't grow resentful. He became clear, and his kids noticed. Suddenly, they heard, "I'd like to help, but I have something planned. Sure, I can assist if we coordinate ahead of time." At first, they were puzzled. Some even bristled. But slowly, they began saying thank you again. The help became appreciated, not assumed. Sometimes, pulling back just a little, is what helps others see your worth again. Kindness should never mean sacrificing your self-respect. While we're on this journey of self-reflection, let's remember this simple but powerful truth. You are not just someone's parent. You are a person with your own dreams, routines, identity, and purpose. And one of the most healing, empowering choices you can make, for your children and for yourself, is to nurture a life that exists outside of them. That might sound uncomfortable at first, especially if you've always put family first. You might have told yourself, once they're settled, then I'll focus on me. But now, they are settled, and this next chapter is yours. So ask yourself, what lights you up? Because when your children see that you're living fully, not waiting by the phone or holding space they rarely enter, they start to respect and admire you in a new way. You're no longer just their safety net. You're someone with a life, goals, and presence of your own. You have every right to reclaim your joy, whether that means joining a club, picking up a passion project, volunteering, making new friends, or simply sipping your morning coffee in peace. This is your time. And when you take that time, something shifts. Your kids stop seeing you as someone clinging to the past. They start seeing you as someone still writing your story. Let's talk about what happens next. When you begin to speak up, set boundaries, and gently release unrealistic expectations, the emotional weight starts to lift. The anxiety lessens. You're no longer walking on eggshells. You're standing on solid ground. And that shift, it's not about them changing. It's about you changing. Because respect doesn't come from confrontation. It grows from how we carry ourselves. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You just need to live it. Let's not forget, you matter. Not because of what you give, not because of how much you've done, but because you are you. Your calm, clear presence is more powerful than any speech or demand. And your family needs that version of you. The one who doesn't shrink to avoid conflict. The one who stands steady with quiet strength. You might be surprised by how your children respond. Maybe they start calling more often. Maybe they soften their tone. Maybe they start listening again, really listening. These changes are not random. They're a result of you reclaiming your place. Not through pressure, through presence. But if they don't change right away, don't be discouraged. Shifts like this take time. They've gotten used to a version of you that always said yes, stayed quiet, gave endlessly. When you rewrite the rules, it might feel awkward at first. That's okay. Growth is rarely comfortable, but it's worth it. Because love and respect are not the same. You can love your kids with your whole heart and still say, that's not okay with me. You can care deeply and still have boundaries. That's not being cold. That's being healthy. And more often than not, it doesn't push them away. It brings them closer. When they see you living well, showing up for yourself, speaking with clarity, they start to value you in a new way. You go from being the parent who will always be there to someone they look up to, not just love. So here's the question I invite you to sit with. Where in your life are you still handing away your power? Is it in those small, reluctant yeses? The times you stay silent when you want to speak? Or when you wait for their affection to feel whole? Wherever it is, that's your starting point. Make one simple change. Say, I already have plans, but let's pick another day. Or, I'd like us to talk more respectfully. Otherwise, we can pause the conversation. Or even, I'm signing up for that workshop I always put off. Small actions, huge impact. And remember, you don't need to do it all perfectly. You just need to begin. Because this is where dignity takes root. This is where respect grows. If any of this speaks to your heart, if you felt the quiet pain of being overlooked or misunderstood by your own children, please hear this. You are not alone, and you are not the problem. You deserve to feel seen, respected, and appreciated, not just for what you've done, but for who you are. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for having the courage to reflect inward. That's the first and most powerful step. And I'd truly love to hear from you. Have there been times when your children spoke to you in ways that hurt? Have you tried pulling back or setting boundaries? What's made the biggest difference for you? Please share your experience in the comments. Your story might be the exact message someone else needs. If you found this video encouraging or helpful, please tap that like button. It helps others find this message too. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss future content designed to uplift, support, and walk alongside you. You are never too old to reclaim your peace, never too late to earn back respect, and never too far from the love and freedom you deserve. Thank you for your time, your heart, and your strength. Until next time, take care, and remember, living with dignity is the most powerful message you'll ever send.